And we are joined right now here by Professor Gloria Brown-Marshall with the John Jay College of Criminal Justice for some context. Professor, I just want to start off with your reaction to what we heard from the mayor. And it was interesting in talking about the people who are carrying out this violence. She used the word thugs. She called them thugs who only want to incite violence and destroy our city. What did you make of that?
Well, I could hear her frustration. She was in a position in which, at one point, apparently, she understood the First Amendment right to protest, but that First Amendment right was a right that was abused by some within the group, and they're saying that those people were actually outside of the neighborhood who were frustrated by their lives, I'm sure, frustrated by their lack of opportunity. And in this protest, they saw a way to have their voices heard through acts of violence. And so she said that she couldn't find the words to even express the sadness she felt with the destruction of her beloved city.
The term she used, though, thugs, some would say that is a very charged and racially charged word in some contexts.
In certain contexts, but you have white thugs and Asian thugs and Latino thugs. You can have female thugs. You could have thugs of all stripes. I think her concern was that she wanted to characterize them as people who did not have a civil rights consciousness. They weren't there for the greater good. They were there to take advantage of the situation, to loot, to do harm, to let out their frustration toward the system, wherever that system was in their minds, and it could be expressed through violence. And that's why I think she called them thugs.
At one point during that news conference, we heard from the City Council President Jack Young, who said, "This reminds me of 1968, where riots were taking place." And I looked over and you nodded your head at that. What are your thoughts about this? As you look at these pictures and you hear that, what do you think about that?
I think the major word is frustration. And the lack of accountability in the criminal justice system, where people are being told time and time again to wait. And wait for what? We're watching videos where unarmed black men are being killed in the streets, in broad daylight, no less. And it hadn't been for a passerby, we wouldn't have even known that Walter Scott had been shot in the back in that way. I think a lot of people, especially our young people, because they're talking about high school students, and these high school students are watching us, adults. They're looking at this criminal justice system, and they have to ask themselves, where's the accountability? Where does my life matter? Anywhere? So we have these young people, and as adults, I think we fail to explain to them, or perhaps our system is not showing them that justice is something that they can actually wait for.
But do we know, how can we know that that is the root of the violence when you have the city council president saying these are opportunists and not really giving them any kind of credibility about kind of conflating them with the protesters who up until this point have been peaceful? I mean, there was a distinct effort made on the part of the Baltimore city mayor to distinguish between the people who have been out voicing the frustration that you just talked about and the people that we have seen looting, destroying businesses, setting a business on fire, committing acts of violence against police officers. The mayor herself said there is a difference between those two groups of people.
I think what I saw was a mixture even. These are kids. And when you put kids in a situation in which they're running with other kids and freely running through the streets and acting this way, these are kids who are frustrated, kids who are taking advantage of a situation. And a mixture in there, I think, are some adults and others who are those thug-type characters. But these kids are seeing an opportunity and they're going for it. They're letting go of frustration. I've had students who have been stopped by the time they're 18, have been stopped by police 5 and 6, 7 times, and it started off when they were 8 or 9 years old. So you might have kids who feel like, well, this is my way of getting back at the police who have been, tormenting my life for so many years. They don't really understand all the ramifications. And the mayor has said, we're going to watch the video. We're going to hold these people accountable, even the young ones. There's a juvenile curfew. These young people are supposed to be home pretty soon. My concern is this: as adults, what are we telling, what message are we giving these children to give them hope in a criminal justice system where they haven't seen accountability in adults? And so they're like, we're children. Why should we be accountable when the adults aren't accountable?
Just a short time ago, we were on the phone with our own Alicia Amling, CBS News producer out of Washington, who was with a group of clergymen who were marching to basically send the message that the violence must stop. How effective do you think that will be?
It's a generation gap out there that's is very obvious in this generation gap in which you have young people who are looking at social media, and they said that social media told them where to show up for these different little protests and riots, or even uprisings, we might call them. I don't know if they're even going to church to have the respect that other generations might have had for clergy, or for the time period of civil rights when the church was very powerful. Are we teaching our young people about their history, about what they can do with nonviolence? And the other message is, what is nonviolence done for them so far? We have to understand that they're young adults, young human beings who are watching a violent society, and they're watching older people like themselves being gunned down in the street, and they're voicing their frustration in a very violent way that's going to have long-term consequences for their communities. But young people don't think in long terms. They don't look at it in the 10 years from the time period in which their neighborhood is burning. The other thing you mentioned was the civil rights movement. This happened during the civil rights movement. Bayard rushed in, and Martin Luther King talked about nonviolence, but what happened in Newark, in Harlem, in Compton, across the country, communities burned because the frustration was, if you're not going to listen to us when we're nonviolent, then we're going to give you something else to listen to. So this community, this country can choose. Are we going to go through a violent period like we did in the late 60s because nonviolence is not getting the message across? Are we going to listen to these young people before they turn violent? Their public school to prison pipeline is something that we've been talking about in our communities. These are the kids in that pipeline. What hope are we giving them? Or they're showing us right now that they feel pretty hopeless when it comes to the criminal justice system and adults protecting their rights.
But who can reach these young people then?
I think it's going to have to be those of us who say to ourselves, we failed them in a lot of ways, and we're going to have to step forward and figure out how to communicate with young people. We're going to have to express what's wrong with the system to let them know we're not going to pretend the system is actually working as fairly as it should. And if we're not honest with these young people as adults, we can have young people talk to young people, but I think as adults, they still respect us enough that if we're honest with them and tell them the system has not worked, the system is broken, and we do want to reach you, we do want to give you a fair criminal justice system, as opposed to pretending that all these shootings and everything that's happened so far are things that are fair. It hasn't been fair for them, and they need to know it hasn't been fair. I don't think they're going to believe us if we continue to say this criminal justice system is working properly.
All right, we want to let our viewers know that we are standing by for a news conference from the governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, who has already declared a state of emergency there at the request of the city of Baltimore, and who has also activated the National Guard. We heard from the mayor of Baltimore that, in fact, those National Guard members will be put into place and deployed just as soon as they are available. And I want to continue our conversation as we watch. Again, these are the pictures from earlier today that we saw a number of clashes taking place. This was video taken by our CBS News producer, Lindsay Borma, who found herself in the midst near one of these confrontations between police and protesters. And I wanted to ask you, because in addition to, of course, this taking place on a day when the funeral for Freddie Gray took place, this is also the day that the swearing in of U.S. Attorney Loretta Lynch took place, that in fact, the Attorney General rather, Loretta Lynch took place. We have an African-American president who has said this is a priority for his administration, and we are continuing still, though, to see these kinds of images throughout different communities in the country. Is it really possible for progress to be made on this issue?
I think it's possible and it's probable if we're honest about the system with which we're dealing. I also think that it's the best of times and the worst of times for the Black community. On the one hand, for the last 6 years, we have people who are doing very well within the Black community. We can't deny that. But at the same time, we have other young Black people who are helpless, hopeless, and frustrated. So we need to have this bridge within those communities so that we understand what these other people are going through. And I was so proud to see Loretta Lynch sworn in this morning. She has her work cut out for her because she's going to have to not only show these young people that the system can be fixed, but also reach them before they become adults and end up in the criminal justice system for long, long periods of time.
So specifically, what would you like to see happen now as we continue to see clashes like this take place? This obviously, unfortunately, he's not the first time that we have seen these kinds of pictures coming out of a community. What is it that you would like to see happen?
I'd like to go to the core of what triggered this, and that was the killing of someone black and unarmed by police officers. We're missing that picture. That triggered these uprisings. And we've seen this time and time again. Tamir Rice killed at 12 years old. Walter Scott shot in the back. You know, John Crawford shot in a Walmart store. Trayvon Martin, all of these murders, these killings are taking place of black people. And those are just the ones we can name. That's not all the killings that have taken place, all of them. Those are triggering the frustration and the fact that no one has been held accountable. We don't even have basic things like an indictment taking place. What do we expect from people after a while? We have these nonviolent protests to what end? People wait 6 weeks and then decide, oh, you've gotten it out of your system, let's move on. This is happening all around the country. It's not just about what happens in the Deep South anymore like it used to be in the 1950s and 60s. So what can African Americans expect of a criminal justice system? What can these children expect? So until we go to the heart of that issue, I don't think we're going to address the protest that's coming from this.
And yet we heard from the attorney for Freddie Gray's family say tonight, she told us on the phone that the message from the family is that this must stop, that this does not honor the memory of Freddie Gray.
It's beyond Freddie Gray now. It's beyond Tamir Rice. It's beyond Trayvon Martin. We're looking at a movement, and the movement in the community writ large, as far as, you know, the African American community and perhaps other communities, is that we can no longer just sit back and let the criminal justice system work through this issue of the killing of black people. You have young people who are asking themselves, what is my life worth? We're looking at Black Lives Matter. That's more than a slogan. That's something that people should understand, that the question is, as with the 1960s, I am a man. What is my life worth to America, that it can be taken in this way, and there is no justice, there is no accountability, yet these young people are supposed to be held accountable. That's what's been said. You're going to be held accountable, but they can't trust the system to hold a police officer accountable. So until we look at the accountability when it comes to police officers, then I think this is going to continue.
All right. Professor Gloria Brown Marshall, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.